guys, it is Aoife from Furies Dead Laughing, and I'm here to talk about Irish books that I have on my Kindle that I've not yet read that I need to get around to. So I wanted to kind of try and make an inventory for myself of all the books written by Irish authors or that are Irish that are on my shelf. So it kind of makes when coming to the Irish Readathon and what books I need to read, it kind of makes it a little bit easier, and to make sure there are not older books on my shelf or on my Kindle that I'm forgetting about. So I decided to do that the other day, and I haven't quite done the physical part because there's definitely a lot more physical books. Strangely, there definitely are a lot more Irish books on my physical shelves than there are on my Kindle. But I've gone through my Kindle and I just thought it would make a fun video to say these are books that I have that I need to read, and there could be ones there that people are really interested in and would also want to read too. What I have is actually one I have from NetGalley, and that is Call Me Mine by Tim McGowan. This is a book that sounds very, very interesting. It is not set in Ireland, it's just written by an Irish author, and this Irish author, I think he is a journalist and has been living in Mexico City for a number of years, and this book is set in Mexico, and it's about I think it's a journalist or two journalists. They're in a relationship together, and they have basically been investigating kind of drug cartels and murders and stuff like that, and then one day they end up coming upon some sort of body or some sort of murder scene that apparently even the police won't touch or won't delve too deep into, and I think that's where our story starts off. So I think it's something to do with obviously the drug cartels, crime in Mexico, and a murder, and it sounds really good, and I feel like that's all I want to know, because I feel like that's the type of book that I feel like it could go off in all different directions. I say it could be particularly dark and disturbing, I'm not really sure, but it sounds really good, so that's definitely one I want to read soon. Another book I talked about in my Irish Readathon TBR, that was 6 Wicked Reasons by Jo Spain. I definitely got what that book was about wrong when I was explaining it. This is about, I think, a boy who goes missing, and then I think it's like 15 years later or 20 years later, a long time later after he goes missing, he ends up reappearing completely safe and unharmed, and he basically calls all his family, all of his relatives back to one place. They're all kind of spread across the globe now, and he calls them all back to one place, I think, to basically explain maybe where he went all that time, or is there another reason why he's gathered them all together, and I think that's the mystery. So yeah, this is one I'm definitely going to be reading this round of the Irish Readathon, and this is one again I have on NetGalley too. I've not read Jo Spain before. She's written a good few books, but I have not read any of her stuff before, so I'm very excited to get this one and see if I like it. The one I have in this as well is another one from NetGalley, but it's one I would have read regardless, and I'm actually reading it at the moment. I'm 70% through it at the moment. That is Our Little Cruelties by Liz Nugent. If anyone has been on my channel for a while, you guys know I love Liz Nugent. She is just a brilliant thriller writer. This book is about 3 brothers, Luke, Brian and William, and we are following, the book is split into 3 different sections, and we are following their lives through each of the eyes of the brothers, and we're being told different stories from all the brothers. And we know from the very start of the book that one of the brothers is dead, and it seems maybe the other brothers killed him or had something to do with his death, but we don't know which brother is dead and which brothers are alive, so we are trying to figure out what the hell is happening. Nugent writes some really interesting thrillers, and I think they're not thrillers, they're more like character studies that also are thrillers, and this one is definitely like that. It's very similar to Skin Deep by Liz Nugent, which was her last book, where we are following a character throughout a lot of their lives and all the bad things they've done basically, and their feelings towards all the different things that have happened in their life. It's really interesting so far. I'm really, really enjoying it. So yeah, watch this space and you'll probably know. By the time this video is up, you'll probably know what I thought of it. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. In the Woods by Tana French is also a book I have on my Kindle that I've not yet read. I've only read one book by Tana French, that was The Witch Elm, which is unconnected to her Dublin Crime Squad series, I think it's called. But I definitely need to read In the Woods. I keep saying In the Woods. I actually don't really know what this is about, except I think it's obviously a body is found in the woods. I don't know whether he's a guard or he's a detective, basically is trying to solve the murder, and I think he could be connected to it, or there's something in his past that could be connected to the murder that he's currently trying to solve. I think that could be something to do with it. Not 100% sure, but this has actually been, I think it's RTE in Ireland did a TV show based on these books, and they based it on the first book, I think. So people seem to really like it. So I want to read the book and then watch that TV show. But I just need to get around to reading the book before I do that. So yeah. Nine Folds Makes a Paper Swan by Ruth Gilligan is also on my list, and this is one that I'm not 100% sure, but it seems to follow 3 different timelines, and all I know is about it is about the Jewish community in Ireland, and we are following Jewish characters living in Ireland. And yeah, so this is quite interesting for me. I've read a few of Ruth Gilligan's books in the past, some of her much older books, when I was like in college or like a teenager, because she's written a few books that have characters who are maybe like 16, 17, 18, and I haven't read any of her books in a few years, so this is one I want to read, and it sounds quite interesting. The Jewish community in Ireland definitely, I think, is very, very small. I myself know no Jewish people. I don't know anyone who is Jewish, which is actually really, really bad of me. I should know that. But yeah, I think it's a very small, like Ireland is predominantly a Catholic country. So yeah, growing up, I didn't know anyone Jewish, and I still don't know anyone Jewish. Everyone I know grew up in more or less a Catholic home. So yeah, this will be really interesting just to know more about that, and to know more about the Jewish community in Ireland, and yeah, broaden my horizons a little bit, because that definitely needs to happen. The Stone's Heart by Jessica Thorne is the second book in a series. I think it's called The Queen's Rune, possibly, and we are basically following a side character from that series. It's kind of a sci-fi book about a queen who has to leave her kingdom, or princess who has to leave her kingdom to go into an arranged marriage with this guy who is on this kind of corrupt planet, and when she gets there, all this shit goes down, and she ends up having to like save this planet that she hardly knows and the people that she hardly knows, because she's their queen now and she has to do it all. And that happens in the first book, and in the second book we are following a side character from that, and I think she's still living on this planet and is helping her queen now deal with the stuff from the first book, but is also dealing with her own romantic entanglements. I think that's what's happening. I don't really know, other than that, what this book is about, but I have it on my Kindle, so I should probably read it. Then I have The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne, which I also talked about in my Irish Readathon TBR. A lot of people have read this on BookTube. I think it's one of those BookTube favourite kind of books. All I know about this one is we are following a man growing up in Ireland. He is gay, and I think we're following him from the time he's possibly conceived, and then him growing up in Ireland, and he's growing up as a gay man, and it's obviously quite hard for him at the time, because Ireland wasn't particularly welcoming to the gay community for a long time. So yeah, and I think it's just, I don't think he's supposed to be like a particularly nice character, which could be interesting to read about, because I like kind of reading about those morally grey characters now and again. Then I have The Brilliant Void, which is basically a collection, I think, of sci-fi stories written by Irish authors. And this is one I think I just randomly saw on Amazon one day, and I was like, this sounds great, I'm going to read this. And I have not gotten around to it yet. But this one, yeah, I actually don't really know what to expect from this one. A majority of the sci-fi authors I read are all UK or American. I don't think I've read very few, if any, sci-fi from Irish authors. So this one will be really interesting to read. And then I have Grace After Henry by Ethna Shortall. This is, I think, just a contemporary book about a woman called Grace whose boyfriend Henry has died, and then 2 months after his death she ends up seeing someone who looks exactly like Henry, and she becomes kind of obsessed with this person because he looks exactly like her dead boyfriend, and she becomes obsessed with him and his life, and I think she tries to insert herself into his life because she just wants to be around him. And it just sounds like really interesting, could be really heartbreaking, but really, really nice at the same time. So this is what I definitely think I want to get to soon. And the last book I have to read that I have on my Kindle is Nuabird by Oisin Fagan, and this is one that I just don't know how to describe. It just sounds really, really interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the blurb that's on Goodreads for this one, because there's just something about it that just like screams out to me that I want to read it so badly, and I just don't know how to describe it. So it's this. An ambitious noble and his 3 serving men travel through the Irish countryside in the stifling summer of 1348, using the advantage of the plague which has collapsed society to buy up large swaths of property and land. They come upon Nuabird, a tiny town whose only living inhabitants seem to be an egotistical bureaucrat, his volatile wife, a naked blacksmith, and a beautiful Gaelic hostage. Meanwhile, a band of marauding Gaels are roaming around, using the confusion of the sickness to pillage and reclaim lands that once belonged to them. As these groups converge upon the town, the inhabitants, who up until this point have been under strict curfew, begin to stir from their dwellings, demanding answers from the intruders. A deadly standoff emerges from which no one will escape unscathed. And yeah, it just sounds really interesting, so I want to read that one. So that's all the books by Irish authors set in Ireland that I want to read, that I currently have on my Kindle. I wonder how many of these I will be able to read during this readathon. I don't know, we will see. But yeah, if you have read any of these books, or if you're interested in any of them, please let me know below. I would love to know, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.